If you're a parent, one of the best financial goals that you can have is investing to build generational wealth for your children. But it can be pretty overwhelming with all the different options out there and decisions that you have to make. And one of the most important decisions that you have to make as a parent, if you want to build generational wealth, is the types of investment accounts that you want to open and fund for your children. In this video, I want to cover two of the most popular types of investment accounts for generational wealth, that being the custodial accounts, UGMAs and UTMAs, and the 529 plan. And I want to give you an idea of which of these options is best for your situation and the goals that you have for your family. So in this video, we're going to cover the basics of 529 plans, so you know what they are. We're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of 529 plans. We're going to talk about the basics of the custodial accounts, UGMAs and UTMAs. We're going to lump them together because they are pretty similar. We're going to go over those pros and cons of the custodial accounts. And at the end, make sure that you stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to uncover which of these options is best for you. So let's start off with the basics of what 529 plans are. So in plain English, 529 plans are investment accounts designed to help you fund your goal of education for your children. In the past, these have been primarily used for college education, but in recent years, there have been some changes to 529 plans, which allow you, in many cases, in many states, to fund private K through 12 education. So even if college isn't the main priority, but maybe you want to help your child pay for the tuition associated with private school, which I know in working with clients is not the cheapest, this can be a way to help you reach that goal. Another nice thing about 529 plans is they have a lot of nice tax benefits, which we'll cover here in 1 second. So it's really an investment account designed primarily for education that gives you special tax benefits and allows you to reach the goal of funding either college education or in many cases private K through 12 education for your child. So let's talk about some of those pros and cons for state 529 plans. Let's touch on those tax benefits a little bit more. So in a lot of states, you can actually get a tax benefit in your state income tax return for putting money into a 529 plan. For example, I have a client in Illinois, just recently had a newborn, wanted to help them get a head start on saving for college. State of Illinois actually provides residents of the state of Illinois tax benefits on their state income tax return for funding the plan. So this is pretty common. One of the first things you want to check before you open a 529 plan is if your state has any kind of tax benefits for putting money into that state's 529 plan in particular. Now, beyond that, all 529 plans allow you to invest the money inside the account. That money can grow without being taxed. So the money can grow without capital gains tax or dividends being taxed as long as the money stays inside the account. And the biggest benefit is if the money is used for what's called qualified educational expenses, things like tuition and things of that nature, all the money inside the 529 can come out completely tax-free. So it's almost like a Roth IRA in many regards, but in this case, we're using it specifically for education. When it comes to the 529 plan, typically these types of accounts have a relatively small impact on the child's FAFSA application. So if you're concerned about them needing some form, of federal student aid, these types of accounts typically have a smaller impact on the application compared to other types of accounts. And a new thing with 529 plans that just rolled out this year is there are some caveats, and I might even make a separate video on this one topic in particular, but there is the option to roll over a portion of unused money in a child's 529 plan to that child's Roth IRA. So I think that's a nice added bonus to the 529 plan. There's all sorts of other benefits, but I'm trying to keep this video at a high level. So those are the primary pros of the 529. Now let's talk about the cons on the flip side. So 529 plans, as I mentioned a moment ago, these accounts are designed specifically for education. And you want to be careful with funding these accounts if your primary goal is not education, because what can happen is if you use the money inside a 529 plan for anything other than those qualified educational expenses I just mentioned a second ago, taxes on top of penalties can apply. Kind of like when you pull money out of a retirement account too early, you get hit with those taxes and penalties. So if your main goal is not education, this may not be the most appropriate vehicle to fund. Or you want to be careful with overfunding the account, because if the child doesn't end up needing the money for education beyond the money that can be rolled over to their specific Roth IRA, if you pull out the rest of that money without using it for qualified educational expenses, taxes and penalties can apply. And in a lot of cases, you can be limited on the investment options inside of a 529 plan. Every state has their own plan with their own different investment options, and it's really on a state-by-state basis. But in a lot of cases, you don't have like ultimate flexibility with what you can invest in inside of a 529. So that is the 529 in a nutshell. Let's talk about the other type of account that we're going to be covering today, which is known as the custodial accounts, or the UGMA and or UTMA. These UGMA and UTMA are acronyms for the types of accounts. They're technically two different types of accounts, but they're pretty similar. So for this video, I'm going to lump them together and just consider them the custodial accounts. So like I said, these are known as the custodial accounts, and they're basically designed for you to invest for your child to start building that generational wealth for them while they're still a minor. And the thing about the thing about the UGMA and UTMA is, while the child is still a minor, they typically have no control or access to the money. So in a sense, they're almost like protected from that money. And typically you retain control over that money, how it's being invested, and making sure that it is growing in the best interest of the child, basically. And that's one of the biggest benefits a lot of parents see of the not the 529, of the UGMA and the UTMA, is that the kid, once they turn 16, they can't just pull that money out and buy a Porsche or something like that. So in another way of saying this is basically an investment account that you open and start funding, that you can build the wealth in for the child. That money is protected from the child doing anything that's probably not the most savvy financially. And the thing about the custodial accounts is, once the minor reaches what's called age of majority, or basically they're considered an adult, the money is then transferred to them and they can do whatever they want with it. So this is usually when you have a young child, you're trying to teach them about how money works, and you feel comfortable once they're an adult, them having control over this money and you giving them that good head start that you're looking to give them. So let's talk about some of these pros and cons as it relates to the custodial accounts. Going back to the pros, again, the protection is a big one. So that money must be managed in the child's best interest. So no one else can go in there and take that money from them. The child can't shoot themselves in the foot, can't self-sabotage. So it's really a good type of account. It's almost like a trust, but it's a much cheaper and a much simpler alternative to setting up like a trust for your child, basically. In a lot of cases, you have a lot more flexibility with investment options inside of your custodial accounts, especially the UTMA. And the UTMA, in some cases, you can even place real estate inside of them. But compared to the 529 plans, sometimes the custodial accounts have more investment options. Now, as far as the cons are concerned, one of the biggest ones to understand is, number one, the money that you put into a custodial account is considered irrevocable by law, which is just a fancy way of saying there's no takebacks. So if your kid pisses you off and you're like, that $1,000 I just put into your UTMA, I'm taking that back. There's no takebacks. That money must stay in the account and must be managed in the child's best interest. As far as the FAFSA application is concerned, these types of accounts can have a larger impact on the child's eligibility for federal student aid. So if you're concerned about them being able to get federal student aid, sometimes these types of accounts can have a negative impact on that. And then the biggest kicker here, of course, being that once the child reaches age of majority, and this depends on the state and also the type of account. In a lot of cases, age of majority for UGMAs is around 18. For UTMAs, it's usually around 21, but it can be up to 25 in some states. Once the minor is considered an adult by law, all that money in the account must be transferred to them, whether you want that to be the case or not. So you retain control for the most part while they are a minor, but once they become an adult, that money must be transferred to them. So it's your job as a parent, as they're growing up and maturing, for you to make sure that you're coaching them up and educating them and putting them in a good headspace. So once they do receive this money, they can make smart decisions with it. So let's talk about what option is best for me. Now that we understand what 529 plans are, the pros and cons, we understand what custodial accounts are, their pros and cons, which option is truly best for you? Well, it depends. When does it make sense to use the 529? So as we've mentioned, if your main goal for your child is funding their education, college or private K through 12, this can be a solid vehicle to choose, specifically for those tax benefits, right? The money can be invested, can grow without being taxed, and if used for education, all that money comes out completely tax-free. So if you're really interested in the tax benefits, which, by the way, the UGMA and UTMA have no tax benefits, this could be a solid option. So what about the UGMA or UTMA? Well, if your goal is to build that wealth for the child while they're still a minor and you have control over it and you want to protect them from anyone else or even themselves, and you're comfortable with that money being transferred to them once they become an adult, the UGMA or UTMA can be a solid option. And again, if your main goal with the money is not education and you want more more investment flexibility, the UGMA or UTMA account could be more suitable for you to use than the 529 plan. And there are some situations where you can have both. It's just a matter of really understanding your goals and doing careful financial planning and figuring out what is it that I'm looking to accomplish over what time frame for my child, understanding your personal tax picture, understanding all these different variables that go into making this important decision. But really my goal with this video was to give you a quick rundown of these different two types of accounts, their pros and cons, and which makes the most sense for you. So at a high level, the 529 plan, if you're looking for primarily the college education, or in a lot of cases, the private K through 12 with the tax benefits, and you're not concerned about that money being used for anything but education, that can be a solid route. If you're not at all interested in funding their education, you want to give them a good head start once they're adults, maybe they're 18, 21, 25, and you're comfortable with them receiving that money at that age, and you don't want to go through the lengthy and costly process of setting up like a trust, for example, the UGMA or UTMA can be a solid alternative to that option. So they all have their pros and cons. They all have their intended uses. Your job as the parent is to understand all these different options and choose what's best for you and your children as well. So next steps from here, if you're watching this and generational wealth is one of your biggest goals in life because you want to pay it forward, maybe you want to give your kids the head start financially that you wish that you had, and now you have some success financially and you have the means to start doing something for them, but you're not really sure how to go about it. You're not sure how to go about their investments. You don't know how to tie in their goals, the goals that you have for them into your financial plan, or maybe you've already started making some moves towards generational wealth, but you're not really sure you're on track and you want some guidance and some help. Next steps from here are in the description to this video. You'll see a link that you can use to schedule a quick one-on-one free consultation with myself. That's an opportunity for us to sit down, help me understand more about your situation and goals, help me understand what you're looking to accomplish financially and what types of generational wealth you're trying to build for your family, and make sure that you're on track and I can answer the questions you have right now. So the link to schedule that quick free one-on-one consult with myself is going to be in the description to this video. I'll also leave it in the comments, but hopefully you found this video helpful. Hopefully it gives you something to think about if you've already started investing for your children or thinking about starting to invest for your children, or maybe you're not even a parent yet, but this is something that's important to you and you know it's going to be something that you're doing down the line. So if you found this video helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to get more content like this from me frequently. I'm trying to upload a lot more consistently to my YouTube channel. Also leave a comment down below letting me know what you found the most helpful in this video. And lastly, again, if you need help figuring out all this stuff relating to not just your own investing, but also investing for that generational wealth for your children, and you need some help, use that link in the description to the video and in the comment section for us to schedule that quick one-on-one call. So that's going to be all for me in this video. Hope you found it helpful. Thank you for taking the time to watch it, and I'll see you in the next one.